Miss Liz, tea time, yeah, making a difference, one cup at a time, tea time, yeah, Miss Liz, tea time, yeah, making a difference, one cup at a time, tea time, yeah. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz, tea time. Making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time, time.
Well, welcome to Tea Time. That's right, it's evening tea time. And of course, it's not a Thursday, it's a Tuesday, it's a Monday. I'm already rushing a week ahead here. It is Monday, and we have a rescheduled tea time. We have Donna Levin in the house, and we're going to be talking about her new book called The Talking Stick and all of that goodies, and some of her other books that she's had, and how she became a writer, all that good stuff. But before we get Donna in the studio, we're going to get you over to Miss Liz's YouTube channel. We're going to get you to ring that little doorbell and get the notifications. And you can watch these tea times at any time during the day, morning, evening, when you're having a time with your family, a picnic party, and you want to hear something different. You want to turn on the radio and you want to listen to Tea Time with Miss Liz, because Miss Liz has all those incredible different kinds of teas out there. We do not serve the beverage tea in this house. We serve real life stories and words. And that's how we serve tea in the house of Miss Liz. So let's get the disclaimer out there. Let's get a little bit of bio on Donna. And then we're going to get Donna in here. And we're going to spill an incredible tea tonight. We're talking tenacious, empathetic, and aware, and we're going to get her to share all of that good stuff. So that's her tea tonight. So we're going to be doing that and a lot of other stuff. So the disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show: Miss Liz myself is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith. However, may bring forward dialogues and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the giving time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment and taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussions for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It's significant to know that this show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection, and it is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in tonight's show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that the show is not made for you at this time, I respect those wishes, and we'll see you at a later show at a later date and time. And again, all Tea Time shows are done on Thursday, 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, unless it's a rescheduled tea time or a surprise tea time or some other goodies that are coming along the way, like special deliveries that will be coming in July. You'll see a little bit more when the press release gets released later this week for July's guest lineup. So now a little bit about my incredible guest, Donna Levin. Well, she's an experienced presenter with a demonstrated history of working in the writing and editing industry, skilled in fiction, editing, public speaking, journalism, and publication. Strong media communication, professional graduate from University of California, Hastings College of the Law. Donna Levin works included in Boston's University Howard Gotlieb, I'm going to get her to say it, Archival Research Center, and in the California State Library collection of California's novels. Donna Levin is the author of Extraordinary Means, California Streets, There's More Than One Way Home, and He Could Be Another Bill Gates. In April 2024, Skyhorse published her latest novel, The Talking Stick, a dramedy, I'm not sure how to say that word, I'll get her to say that one, about 4 women who discovered that some of their most cherished memories are romanticized versions of the truth. In addition to novels, Donna has published 2 books about writing, Get That Novel Started and Get That Novel Written. both with written digest books. For more on Donna's bio, go over to Miss Liz's Facebook page, check out her full bio there, and check out all Miss Liz's platforms. Her full bio is there. Let me get Donna in here and let's spill some tea together. Welcome, Donna.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
You know, when that like goes on and it says it's live, I start to choke up. I don't know why every time I do it, but I'm just glad to have you here, Donna. So, Donna, let's get started with who is Donna as a little girl and who is Donna now?
Donna as a little girl. Well, Donna as a little girl actually broke her femur bone at 5, when she was 5, which is, on my mind now since I just broke another bone. Donna as a little girl was a precocious reader. Donna was, by the time she was 5.5, she was the oldest of 3 girls. And I think she has oldest daughter syndrome, which is a new thing, something else we can be victimized by, frankly. But I love being the oldest. I was I was a big reader, but I was also a very big TV watcher. And when I was a little girl, there wasn't much TV to watch, but that didn't stop me. I just kind of planted myself in front of the screen for about 14 years. And the funny thing is that now that there are more options than I ever could have imagined as a child, now I can't find anything I want to watch. So that's Donna as a little girl. Was the second part? Who's Donna now?
Who's Donna now?
Who's Donna now? Oh God. Okay. Donna is a big lover of Broadway musicals, and I just listened to the cast album for the musical Suffs, which won a couple of Tonys. Don't ask me exactly which ones. But not Best Musical. There's a conversation between 2 women. One says, we've been preparing this march for women to get the vote. We haven't slept for weeks. And the woman she's talking to says, I have 4 kids. I haven't slept for years. So I have 4 kids. They're grown now, so I'm getting a lot more sleep. I am pretty dedicated to writing. I'm a slow writer. I find it an agonizing process most of the time. Once in a while, there's like, she has a heart in her mouth, and I wasn't expecting that. Or, wow, I love the way these words sound together. But for the most part, I find it extremely difficult. But it's the one thing I've really I won't say it's the one thing I ever wanted to do, but as an adult, it's the only thing I've ever really been able to commit to and to, in a small way, succeed at that. And writing fiction, and now in later years teaching fiction, though I have things to say about that as well.
So Donna, what got you into writing? How old were you when you started writing?
Well, there are 2 ways to answer that question. One is I started as a child, and I started keeping a diary when I was 13, and I continued to do that for about 30 years, at which time, for some reason, I just no longer felt the need. In college, I wrote what I thought of as a novella. I can imagine it was pretty bad, but as far as, as making some kind of commitment to it and taking it seriously and being willing to take the risk of showing what I write to other people, the right people, that was in my late 20s, really. I had to really struggle to get to that point after having had a very discouraging experience at a writers' conference when I was 24. This was a writers' conference at Berkeley, and was run by an embittered academic named Leonard Michaels, who seemed it was his job to squash dreams, you could, by that definition, or just make sure that he got rid of anybody who might be, I don't know, competition for him, or what exactly I have some ideas about what his problem was. But he, at one meeting, at one workshop, he read a few paragraphs from a memoir that a woman in the group had written. She poured her heart into it. Whether it probably needed work, it may not have ever gone on to be life-changing, but he said they cut down trees to make paper. Some tree died in vain for this. And I was not even the direct recipient of this needless cruelty, but I was young and insecure. And by the way, now I'm old and insecure. So I didn't write for several years and many sessions of therapy after that. And looking back in later years, this professor wasn't even that good a teacher. I mean, besides the needless cruelty, he was very much into the way words sounded together, which is is very important in fiction. But he didn't really know anything about plot or point of view or conflict or anything. He just, he maybe should have been a poet, but I don't mind telling this story and trashing him because it really, some years later, when I found a good mentor, whose name was Leonard Bishop, that was when I formed the idea that someday I would like to teach fiction writing myself too, and pass on a more positive message, which isn't that, hey, writing is easy and people will flock to your door, because neither is true, but rather, Leonard Bishop used to say, your novels aren't publishable yet because they're not finished yet. Keep going. And he seemed to think that writing a novel was the most important thing that anyone could do, and the only thing that anyone should do also. And even back then, I thought, well, we also need firefighters and emergency room nurses. But I needed to hear that then. So I was very grateful for that. And I wanted to pass that on to other people.
Well, I think it's really important, Donna, that you learn, right, from different people, right? Some are mentors and some are people that guide us and say, oh, I don't know if I would want to ever take this again, and we learn lessons, right, in life that push us to move forward in life. And like you just said, you're insecure as an adult still. I don't think you're really insecure. Are you insecure, Donna?
I'm extremely insecure. And I don't have great self-esteem. I'm very introverted, extremely introverted, which is a good thing for a writer, actually, because you have to spend so much time alone.
Yeah.
But I find interacting with people often just exhausting. And then during that time, I'm always thinking, okay, well, when this is over and I'm alone again, then things will be good. And there are people I love very much, but I just trust
me. Donna, you mentioned that you were a slow writer, right? I've never heard that expression before.
Slow writer?
Yeah. Do you want to get into that a little bit?
Well, sure. I mean, it's if a book is good, it will, and good is a very subjective concept. It will look like it wrote itself. Somebody said to me, actually, the talking stick, it looks like it just came ready-made. And it did not. It was a lot of trial and error, a lot of brainstorming, a lot of stuff that got thrown out. And wow, just even with emails, I'm kind of slow. But with fiction, I'm really slow, because all writers, I think, have some voices in their heads. We call it the inner critic, that say, this has been done before. No one will be interested in this. You don't have enough education to write. If you were going to, quote unquote, make it, you would have made it by now. This constant thing. And then some people have it harder than others with that. Some people just can't write, can't overcome it and stop writing. And I think most of us, you just kind of learn to live with it. And you finding supportive people is really, really important. People who get it, people who say, who understand that you're doing this thing that makes no sense. We don't need more novels.
I want to talk about this book, The Talking Stick, because when I looked up The Talking Stick, I wanted to try and understand it a little bit more. When Bruce sent me a submission to be on Teatime, I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. So The Talking Stick, from what I found out, it was ancient stick that gave messages. Now, is this what the book is based on? Because I found a lot of different things. I found the woman. It's also where did I put it? I wrote it here. Rebuilding yourself after life crisis. So you want to share a little bit about the book on The Talking Stick?
Oh, please. Of course. It's fine. Well, a talking stick is, using a talking stick is a very, we could say, ancient Native American tradition where the person, it's a kind of a symbol of authority. Actually, let me see if I can reach it. I bet I can. This is luck. Here's a talking stick. I bought it on Etsy while I was writing the book. So, they can, I've seen pictures of talking sticks that are much bigger and more elaborate with more beads and feathers, etc. So it's a tradition that's been, I guess we have to say, appropriated by the white man, that when you're holding the talking stick, you are talking and no one can interrupt you. And this is how you keep order in a group. And if I've seen people use other things, it doesn't have to be a stick. It can be, to tell you the truth, in an early season of Breaking Bad, the family is using what they call the talking pillow. So the person who has the pillow on their lap is allowed to talk and other people aren't. How much people actually respect that is another question. But for the sake of the book, I imagined my heroine, Hunter, getting a hold of a genuine Native American talking stick that's been passed down from mother to daughter for generations. In real life, it was they were more likely passed down from father to son, but who knows? And what happens to the woman who's holding it is that she remembers something, not a repressed memory, but a revised memory, so that she remembers something the way it really happened rather than the way she told herself it happened. So that, for example, one woman raising a teenage daughter and having the trouble that one often has with teenage daughters, she has told herself for years that the father, the biological father, just abandoned her and didn't want to know about the baby. And, she's felt a little bit kind of like a victim that way. And she remembers that she never told him she was pregnant. Which is kind of a big difference. Wow. Yeah. And they get back in touch. I won't say more about that, but it's a big part of the book. And the Hunter, the main character I mentioned a moment ago, at the very beginning of the book, so it doesn't count as a spoiler because it's the first chapter, her husband leaves her for their friend. And meanwhile, he's run up a $40,000 bill on their joint credit card, and she has lost her job. And so she's under a little bit of pressure. But once the group is formed by a series of random events that probably aren't random, she begins to remember what she did to contribute to his leaving. And that's not to say that she's right and he's wrong, she's right or wrong, or that he's right or wrong. In fact, a lot of the book is about how those lines are not clear cut.
Okay.
So that's yet another woman has been grieving the loss of her mother for 3 years. And she idolizes her mother. Her mother was, the perfect mom, and she can't live without her and everything. And then she begins to remember that her mother wasn't so perfect. And she learns to love her in a different way. So I kind of thought of it. I didn't really plan it, but now that it's written, I think of it as kind of a dramatization of good therapy, when therapy works.
So the four characters, the four women in the book, did they know each other prior to this engagement, or is it like a group, like they met at a camp, or like how do they get together? Can you give that a little out?
Yeah,
Or
sure. Well, Hunter, desperate for money, as I described a minute ago, goes to a local flea market on Treasure Island, which is, the book is set almost entirely in Marin and then a little bit in other parts of the Bay Area. So Treasure Island is our man-made island in the middle of San Francisco Bay. And in fact, that flea market doesn't exist anymore, thanks to you heard about this pandemic, but it was there for a long time. She goes to the flea market with her armful of William Shatner Christmas music albums, hoping to sell them to get just enough money to pay the minimum, etc. She meets a woman who gives her this talking stick. Now Hunter comes home very excited about she's going to use the talking stick. She's going to form a group and call it Get Healthy, because she used to work at a gym, and she's going to gather women, and they're going to get off the dieting roller coaster, and they're going to exercise, and they're going to keep journals of their progress, etc. But although she does a lot to promote the group, nobody shows up, nobody responds. So she makes flyers with a picture of her house and a bio, etc. Goes to a local open air mall, thinking that maybe she can post these flyers in the windows of various stores and get some interest that way. And an unexpected storm comes up and blows them out of her hand. So at that point, she says, okay, I'm done. I'm a quitter. I've done everything I could to get this group going. The husband's gone. I'm in debt. But, maybe things can get worse. I don't know, but I'm going home. But the other three women find the flyers. So I don't want to be, too explicit about this.
No. We don't want to give too much away, because we want people to go out and grab the book, right?
Yes, definitely.
From what I got from the Amazon, a little bio of the book and everything, there's a lot of humor in the book as well, correct?
It's hilarious, actually. I'm not insecure about that. I know I'm hilarious.
That's how I am. If I get a little nervous or something, I crack a joke, right? Put some humor in there, because life is so serious all the time. We just gotta break it and say, have a little giggle once in a while. It ain't gonna hurt you.
Yeah. It's definitely a defense mechanism for me, but on the other hand, I do it so well. I mean, I'm just really funny, so being really funny comes with a certain amount of baggage. Comedians are famous for being pretty neurotic, but so it's a funny book. Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. We have a couple comments that are coming in from Instagram. I just want to read them out to you.
Oh, great.
So kudos to you, Donna, for having the determination and patience and courage to keep going. Comes from Shanna, a lady here in Cornwall. So thank you for tuning in, Shanna. And we have another comment that says, awesome title of a book, The Talking Stick.
Oh, great.
So how did you get the title?
Well, it's funny. I was just thinking about this right before we met, how this was a pretty easy title, because it centers around this possibly magical object. And I really struggled with for the last two books. They're both about a woman raising a child on the autism spectrum. And There's More Than One Way Home was the title of the first of the two I'm talking about, but it's a generic title. It refers to the son's refusal to walk a different way back home from the park. But you don't know that from the title. So it I don't know. I'm not thrilled with it. And then He Could Be Another Bill Gates was another one I struggled with a lot and have never been quite as happy with. That was inspired by this idea that Bill Gates himself is on the autism spectrum, which I think is silly. If it destigmatizes autism in any way, great, I'm all for it. But this idea that everybody's just flocking to claim autism, those of us who had to deal with it one-on-one, I don't know. Again, the destigmatization, I need help saying that, obviously,
Yep.
Is good. But so somebody in that book says of the woman's then teenage son, well, he could be another Bill Gates. He could change the world. He could invent something that another generation of computers and make $1 billion. And isn't that nice? But but the talking stick, that was sort of an obvious one because it all centers around what happens when people hold the talking stick. So,
and there's some fun things that happen when they hold that talking stick, but you really got to go get the book, because it's really like I read a little bit. I don't want to give too much away either because I read some of it, and I think it's really incredible how you brought the humor into the book, and we need that in storytelling. We don't have enough humor out there. We have so much serious. So Donna, the book that you just mentioned about Bill Gates, when I seen that, I was like, oh, okay. And it is true. But if it does help to destigmatize autism and that, I'm all for it as well. But it takes away from people who actually live it and go through it.
right.
And if we just put diagnosis on everyone just to get them out of the doctor's office, or like, we're not doing any good there either. So
Yeah, that's how I feel. It's
Yeah.
it's cool to be autistic now. I think Jerry Seinfeld briefly claimed, etc. But
So Donna, I want to get into your tea. The tea that you gave me, I have a hard time saying that. It's tenacity and empathetic and aware. So let's get into those 3 words. Why did you give me those 3 words for your tea?
well, let's see. Wait, empathetic and aware as opposed to tenacious, because tenacious, I can be very tenacious. Believe me, this book would not have been written if I weren't really tenacious. I went through. I'm in a terrific writing group with very supportive women who actually have changed my view about women's friendships. But as part of that, I brought chapters to the group that and you get that kind of look on people's faces when they don't want to tell you how bad something really is. What are they going to say that isn't cruel?
Yeah.
But this is not, Donna, this really, hey, I need the latest room. I'll be right back. There were months of that. So just the fact that you have to be a novelist, you have to be tenacious. Empathetic, well, sometimes that does, I don't know if that does anybody any good. But I'm just going to tell you, I was in New York about a year ago, and I'm walking down Fifth Avenue. And of course, you're in one of the most affluent places in the world. And here are people selling plastic containers that have fruit in them. And I start thinking about how hard they're tenacious and brave. And I start thinking about how hard they are working. And I went to see one of these musicals I mentioned. There was a woman got in line with a white cane, and someone came out from front of house and helped her get into the theater. But she does not want my pity. I know that. And everybody was as nice as could be. But I started thinking about her life, and then it just expands to there's so much suffering in the world, you know. So I'm not doing a lot to ameliorate that, but you know, you give money and you hope it has some impact, or you try to help somebody on the street. But I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to entertain people mostly with my writing. If it makes people think sometimes, that's great. I would love that. I'm not going to assume that, but I would like it. And aware. Well, sometimes I feel a little too aware. Sometimes seeing all those things and think can be overwhelming at times, and thinking about what the future holds and what happens to my children when I'm gone, you know, whether it's financial or environmental or whatever it is. And I'm very aware of my own mortality. Do you know how people post on Facebook, it's my birthday? So today for my birthday, I'd like to ask for donations to this obscure nonprofit, or that obscure nonprofit, the ranch in some state I've never heard of. If it's somebody I know, I often will give money, you know. But on my last birthday, I posted for my birthday this year, I want everyone to sit in a room and contemplate their own mortality until they tip into a full-blown panic attack. So, yeah, well, because that's what I usually do on my birthday. Unfortunately, I do it other days.
Well, and that's the thing I want to get into, because I asked you one word to describe yourself and you gave me the word funny. And it goes right into what we're talking about, right? Being aware but we also have to look at life not so seriously, you know. And on birthdays, if that's the only time you want to give money to a donation or something, that kind of gives me a red flag. Like, is that the only time you support this? Or, you know, like, do you not want to support it all year round? You know, could we not put these campaigns up all year instead of just on birthdays? But I want to get into the word funny, because you have humor in the book, in the talking stick. You have humor in when you do events, when you do speaking, and that as well. And humor has really saved your life, I believe, in many ways. Mm-hmm. So let's get into the word funny. When you hear the word funny, what comes to mind for you?
Well, actually, it was I would maybe say humorous rather than funny, but you know, they're more or less synonymous. I will say that I'm a hard laugh. I mean, it's hard to make me laugh. And if something makes me laugh, I'm grateful to that person, or that, you know, that entertainer, or that book, or that TV show, whatever it is. Some years ago, having a conversation with a woman who was talking about recipes, I said, you know, I really don't like cooking. I don't like to spend 2 hours on something that disappears in 5 minutes. And she said, don't you like to give pleasure to other people? And I felt like, no, get out of my lane.
That took me 2 hours. You guys take it away in 5 minutes.
I mean, maybe I don't like to give pleasure to other people. You're making some assumptions here that are not necessarily accurate. And this was years ago. And for all these years, I've regretted that I did not have what was the right answer, which was, I do like to give pleasure to people. I like to make people laugh. I like that very, very much. When I have been reading something I've written, for example, to the women in the writing group, and they laugh, I just get such a high out of that. So that's, and I guess, you know, good humor is not about slapstick or people getting knocked over, or it's something that maybe makes you laugh, but later makes you see something a little more clearly, or see something a little differently. And let me see if I can think of an example. I certainly don't want to get into anything political, but yeah, that's a tough one. But you know, it's a very Jewish thing. Being able to laugh at ourselves. I'm not going to, it certainly doesn't belong to Jewish people by any means, but it's certainly part of my tradition and part of my upbringing and part of my culture. So, you know, that we just, I going to make fun of ourselves. When you're a Jew all the way, from your first kosher hot dog to your final oy vey. Yeah. I just saw that just recently. So,
Well, we need humor in life, and I like that you changed the word from funny to humor, because we're having a lot of humor here tonight on tonight's tea time. Now I want to get into a few other things. We're going to switch it up a little bit, and we're going to go back to the talking stick. The talking stick. How did you build the characters? Are they somebody you know? Are you one of the characters? Like, do you hide yourself in your novels? Like,
I think I'm all the characters, at least to some extent. Hunter is a neat freak with kind of a cleaning compulsion. That's not me. But a lot of the rest of her is me. And there's Danica with her cats. Well, I only have 2 cats. She has 9. But and Alicia with her teenage daughter. My daughters are not teenagers anymore, but I've been through the whole. Once upon a time, I was a teenage daughter, and now I've had 3 come down the pike. And I think I've heard that this is that all the characters in a novel are part of the author. I mean, and that just sort of made sense to me, that you really only have your own experience to draw from, which is not to say that something isn't autobiographical, or that you don't use your imagination. But I think that's, we all, there's a way to explain this that falls under the word empirical. I mean, we just know what we've experienced. And of course you want to imagine other lives. And a lot of writers will say that that's what their jam is just imagining other people in other situations. I was inspired by the writing group I've talked about a few times already, and I mentioned that it really gave me I was raised to believe, we won't name any names, Mom, but that women can't really be friends, that they're always going to be competing with each other for men usually, and for or for opportunities, or just attention. And relatively late in life, I met this women that they're all very different backgrounds and in very different circumstances, and they have very different triumphs and setbacks, and everybody, they are not competing with each other. In the acknowledgments of There's More Than One Way Home, I listed them alphabetically, and then I said, before I met them, I did not believe women like this existed. So this has been, it's maybe as much as the help I've gotten with writing from them, and I've been in other writing groups, of course, before this, but as much as the help I've gotten with writing, that's been powerful, an important experience for me. And it's very hard to shake those childhood messages, isn't it? I mean, here's a completely crazy one, which is that you don't disturb a sleeping cat. My mother, God bless her, if the cat was in her lap, she would just stay there, no matter where she supposedly had to be. She would just stay there till the cat moved. It's a cat, But when I'm reclining on my futon with a laptop in my lap, and the cat is on my leg, I will not move. Eventually. And
I totally get that. I'm a cat lady too, and when my little Tinkerbell's on, I'm just like, okay, Mom has to get up. You got to move, and she'll just look up, and I'm well. Whenever you're ready to move, then I'll move. They got something over us, right? These cats, like.
Dogs have owners, cats have staff,
right?
Yeah. And one of my daughters is a big cat person too, and I recently discussed this with her. Oh no, go ahead.
So where would you like to see this book go? In a movie, in a Broadway? Like, where would you like to see this book go?
Well, it's of course, I'd love to see it be a movie. I've no desire to write the screenplay. Let somebody else do that. But of course, I would love that. It doesn't happen to very many writers, but so I don't want to count on that. I don't want to start casting the movie or anything like that. But of course, that would be great. Although, without naming names, a few years ago, I met a lady, wonderful lady actually, who had a book turned into a movie. And I asked her what that was like because, I'd love to experience it. She said that she didn't feel much ownership of the final product. It was really just kind of taken away from her. But she said it allowed her to buy a house in Northern California. So she was,
there you go.
she was down with that part. But yeah, that would be great. Or we could see The Talking Stick, the musical.
Right. Well, that's why I brought up the Broadway, because you had mentioned that you like Broadway. So I thought maybe a Broadway, and there's so much humor in this book. So I think it would be a comical Broadway, turn it into a musical.
Well, if you know any producers or a composer lyricist team who might be interested in a story about 4 women who rebuild their lives after crises, then please pass it on or let me know and I'll pass it on.
Absolutely. For any of the listeners out there, if you know anybody that does musical Broadways and all that, I think it would make a hilarious Broadway, Donna, because there's so much humor in there. So yeah, any of the listeners out there, and if you're watching a replay, push #replay. Miss Liz always wants to know where you're tuning in from. We do have some listeners coming in from Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and all of those good places. So thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it, and Donna appreciates it. Donna, I want to get into your favorite color. The color you gave me was crimson red.
Yeah.
So why that color?
I don't know. Ever since as far back as I can remember, red is my favorite color, and not just red, but the really dark. Let's see. Here's a good red right there.
Yeah.
The really dark, vibrant reds. I don't know. I actually, when I see that, and that it's that whole slice of the color wheel that I like. The dark red, the crimson, the scarlet. That I actually, when I see that, I get kind of a little dopamine hit. Actually, we got this too. Now
there you go on your nails.
Yeah. So happily, this is a color found in nature, and I like the jewel tones. All the sapphire and I like and teal and all those.
Yeah, when I asked you your favorite color and I got a direct kind of red, I was like, oh, she likes a certain type of red. So, and I liked it. I was just like, that's different. I like when my guests give me like a different color, like like peewinkle or or lavender purple, or like a blue and a purple mixed together, or they create their own color name or something like that, because it gets creative, right? And colors say a lot about a person. So I was like, she likes crimson red. Have you ever written a murder story or anything like that? Like,
funny you mentioned that, because I would like to. I've started something that new, which will be partly murder mystery, but it's, to be honest, I'm doing that because it makes for a good story. I'm actually puzzled by the almost ubiquitous, the almost universal fascination for murder mysteries. I like to say that if you put a murder mystery by James Joyce on the cover of Finnegan's Wake, people would read it. And if an alien came to Earth, at least to North America, it might think that a third of the people were killing another third of the people, and the final third were trying to figure out who did it. I don't know, and so much on TV, the British murder mysteries, and then for me, rather distastefully, the popularity of Law and Order Special Victims Unit. I find that I really don't want to watch TV about spousal abuse or infanticide. Yeah. And I wonder why there's such an audience for it. Now, I mean, cozy murder mysteries are less troubling to me, but I still don't really understand the obsessive fascination with that. The closest I can come is saying that if you tell somebody it's a mystery, that they know it's not going to be 100 pages of a woman slicing zucchini in her kitchen and thinking about her childhood, that it promises some kind of plot. Yeah. I actually just a few days ago finished reading what was billed as a psychological thriller. I won't mention the author, but she has written a whole series of these psychological thrillers, and they center around clueless masochistic women and sadistic men. And I think what they promise is this fast shuffling plot where you don't know who the good guy or the bad guy is, and each keeps changing around everything. I understand that people want a fast moving plot, and to change, I think The Talking Stick has a relatively fast moving plot, but I finished this book and felt a little worse about myself in the world, that people want to read about women letting themselves be abused. It wasn't over the top. There's no physical abuse, but there's a repeat pattern of this man manipulating a woman and how she keeps justifying that's okay, and he's so hot and he was nice yesterday and everything. And there's no moment in which she finally says, I'm wrong to be living this way. There's just that. So that's
so Donna, if you were to write a murder mystery book, would it be like almost like a murder she wrote kind of plot, like layout? Yeah, because the old show Murder, She Wrote, it was about trying to find out, right, about all the different characters, who did it, right? Who was the last one to speak to that person, and who might have wanted to take that person out and stuff like that. I think we need more of those types of murder mystery books out there that get you to really think, right? Who could it be?
Well, I think that's what the attraction is, the puzzle, figuring out the puzzle, the Agatha Christie type. And it's funny you mention that, because when I started this new book I actually dug up, I found, I don't even remember what platform, there's so many now. I found Murder, She Wrote and watched a few episodes because I had never seen it before, but I knew that it was more the Agatha Christie, violence off scene type. Just let's figure out the puzzle. After watching a few episodes, I kind of figured, okay, I got it. But now that we're talking, I'm thinking maybe I should get back to that for more constructing a murder mystery.
Yeah, because that's what I kind of got, like, when you gave me Crimson Red, I was like, oh, she could write a good Murder, She Wrote kind of novel, like, and put a little bit of humor in there, because there was also humor in Murder, She Wrote, when you thought there was that character and then they threw a little joke in there, oh no, they were off romancing or something, or another plot came in, another story came in. And that's what I got from The Talking Stick, was the different relationships, right? Because there is some romance as well in this book.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about the romance? Not too much, because I don't want to give too much away, but
okay. Well, my heroine Hunter, although after having had this very bad experience with her husband, she does meet somebody new. And he's a quirky guy. She begins to, and in her past, she's really judged men on their appearance, which that was not autobiographical, whatever. But she was very attracted to her husband, Peter, who has left her, because he was so gorgeous. Now this guy is not gorgeous, but she needs him for something else. I mean, he's helping her with something, and she begins to appreciate his values. His desire to, it's kind of a cliche now, but to make the world a better place too. And so that's probably all I should say without giving away too much.
So Donna, this book came out this year, correct?
Yes, just 2 months ago, about 2 months ago.
So if anybody would like to grab a book, where could they grab this book?
Well, the easy one is Amazon, of course. And I'm happy to say, boy, I haven't, in the United States, it's available at a lot of libraries. And I love to encourage people to use libraries. I think most copies in the United States libraries are in ebook form, some in hardcover. And then the real simple thing too, if you go to my website, which is very creatively, it's right there on the screen, donnalevin.com, there are links to, half a dozen online platforms that will sell. There's bookshop.org, and they give a percentage of their profits to independent bookstores. And there's indigo.com, and Barnes and Noble and Amazon, frankly, are the big ones. So that would be certainly much appreciated by the author. I've got to see about maybe getting it into some Canadian libraries. I've been, Googling to see what libraries have it here in the States, and when they don't, then maybe.
I really like that you got it in libraries, because we need to get people into the libraries. Got to get reading again. You
Yes.
know, without the phone, without the tablets, get a book, get that hardcover. There's just something different about a hardcover book than there is, with the tablets and phones. And I love holding a hardcover book. There's just something different. I'm just like, oh, all these words were put on this paper to enjoy.
Yeah. And people tell me, they like the smell of a book, and the weight of a book. And the talking stick has it's not a tome, but it has some heft to it. And it's a beautiful cover. Oh, wow. Why didn't I have a copy of it right to hand? No, I don't have one that I can absolutely reach. Beautiful cover. I've got to remember that for next time, just to have something to hold up. And I just recently read a long essay by a writer named Joseph Epstein called The Novel Who Needs It. And he takes the position that the novel really holds a special place in our culture, and that isn't, it has a territory that movies and TV and nonfiction don't have, that it allows us to empathize with other people, to imagine other lives, to speak the truth rather than just facts. Anyway, he was making a plug for the novel as a form, so I was all for it.
Well, and there's just something different when you're holding a book, right? You just get into the book. When you're holding the phone, then a message comes on and you got to check the message, and an email comes in, and but when you're holding that hardcover book, you're just in that book. You're just in that moment, and then you see and you can visualize it. When I have Kindle, I read some of the books on, on audiobooks and stuff, but I just love holding that book and feeling the story and the weight that went into the book and the time, and that it took to write the book. So how long did it take to write the talking stick?
5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was a lot of that was the longest I've spent on a book. And it was as I said early on, a lot of trial and error. I wanted to say before, though, when reading, if I'm enjoying a book, I read very slowly, because I will stop and reread a sentence, and I will take time to imagine the action, and put the characters in space and imagine what they look like beyond what the author has told me. And then there are books that, I start skimming, because they're not engaging all of me, and they're not telling us. They're not telling a story. They're not telling a story. Or actually, no, I take that back. They are telling a story, but that's all they're doing. They're not making me, so I'm just skimming to find out what happens, but I'm not really engaging with the characters.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I used to do that in school when we had to do book reports. Skim through a book, read the first, the middle, and the end, and then the back. And I would do my book report on that. if it was a book that I didn't really want to read, and there was this one book in grade 8 that I had to read about seals and killing seals and taking the oil, and I don't like cruelty to animals, and I just couldn't do it. I was just like, I'll get an F on this report because I don't even want to read this book, right? And so, any future plans for any new books coming out this year or next year, Donna, for you?
Well, this was my one book for this year, but I have gotten pretty deeply into a new novel. It's, that what keeps me going is the fantasy that the next one will be easy, and I'm always wrong. It remains a fantasy, and this new book, I'd like to write about what they now call DID, dissociative identity disorder. You'll know it from, the Three Faces of Eve and the movie Split, and and the United States of Terra. It's a fascinating phenomenon, just fascinating to me. So I don't know if I can do justice to it or not. I think there's what I'm finding, for one thing, is there's a very vocal, active community of people with DID, and the idea that with therapy, all these alters come together to a cohesive, personality, for lack of a better word, is actually very rare. What people work through in therapy is forming a system where these alters work together. One alter goes to work. One alter puts the kids to bed. One alter cooks. Hopefully it's not me, but that seems to be really, and breaking down what they call the amnesic barrier, so that you don't have a host who doesn't know what's going on, or you don't have a host who's losing time, who's in the grocery store 1 minute and then wakes up in another state a day later and has no idea what's happened. So the therapy really is about addressing that. And it's actually rare that you get the, end of, oh, okay, I'm me and all my alters are gone. And
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I find it really interesting that you brought that up, DID, because I was diagnosed with that in 2007.
Really?
Yeah. And there's a lot of stories out there that make us look like we're monsters, and we're not monsters. We do have these different alters and voices and stuff. And then when we start to heal and start to understand the different alters, then we come as one. So I hope I really want to look forward to getting that book. So when that book comes out, you let me know, Donna, because I would love to read it. There's a lot of movies and books out there on DID that misdiagnose and represent it wrongly. And for people that live with it, it kind of makes us look like you don't understand the illness at all, right? When you're coming, we're just monster in this. So I'm really surprised, because I did not know that until right now that you were doing that. So let me know when that book comes out, because I would love to read that book, Donna.
Well, I promise you it's going to be a sympathetic portrayal. I've already, as you now know, I'm just really disgusted by violence against women as entertainment. But the DID community that movie is anathema to them. A person with DID is more likely to be a danger to themselves than to anybody else. So, and I know it's generally it's caused by childhood trauma, which is another, thing we don't need to get into. But it's apparently that it's much more common than, I've heard vloggers say that the same percentage of people who have red hair. I kind of have red hair, but I cheated.
I'm originally a strawberry blonde, but I went dark. So Donna, any final message for anybody out there that's would like to grab the talking stick and all of that good stuff, and how they can connect with you? For the audio listeners, if you'd just like to spell out your website so they can check you out.
Please do go to my website. That's the fastest, easiest thing to do. If you're interested in buying the book, of course, I would love that. But I'm more interested in readers than I am in sales. So if you can buy a copy and share it with other people, or, again, I'm not sure what the logistics are in terms of getting a book from the United States Library. Hey, you can ask your library to order a copy. I mean,
Absolutely.
the ebook form. So I would love that. And I really appreciate you having me on today.
Well, it was a real pleasure having you on. And, as we got to talk more and more, I got to know you a little bit better. And I really appreciate everything that you're doing and in the writing world, and keep doing what you're doing, Donna. And it was an honor to have you on my platform. For all the listeners that tuned in today, thank you. I really appreciate your support. For all your newcomers that are just checking out Miss Liz's Tea Times for the first time, thank you for tuning in. You could be somewhere else, but you tuned in tonight to listen to us. So thank you for that. We will be back Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're going to be wrapping up the month of June and then jumping into until July. My tongue again, we're going there. And the press release for July will be out soon, so you'll be wanting to check that out. There's a few good goodies and surprises in there that you'll be like, where's Miss Liz going with this? But that's the way we do tea in this house. So we will be back on Thursday with Kim Devandesan, and she's coming in from the Neverlands. So we got some good stuff coming. So again, Donna, thank you for tuning in and joining me tonight. And for all the listeners out there, thank you, Bruce, for giving me Donna and sharing Donna with me. It was a real pleasure. And I will see everybody back here Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the next TEA. Keep serving your tea and keep being true to yourselves, and we'll make a difference with a cup of tea, one cup of tea at a time.